Hello everybody. My name is Victoria. I'm a software developer in Rakettitiede. I've been in tech. I've actually was trying to remember today. We can say since 2015, not counting the study years. I've been in Finland for a long time, since 2010. And I've been studying in, I've studied in Haga-Helia, got my bachelor there in business IT. With Rakettitiede, I have been for over 2 years, and I've done mostly backend, touched a bit of front end here and there. I was working with Java, Go, Node, so like a master of none type of a thing. And recently, I also joined interviewing effort with Rakettitiede, so here I am to share with you my experience.
All right. And welcome from my part also. I'm Marko Saavisto, one of the 5 founders of Rakettitiede. So I've been part of this circus for quite a while. And I'm taking part in building the company, building the team. My own background is also in IT, so I've been writing code for quite a while. I have graduated from the University of Helsinki. Also, the school I highly recommend. And yeah, most of my time at Rakettitiede I've been involved in customer projects, but I've also been heavily in recruitment. I guess a few hundred interviews by this time. No real professional or education on that part. I just trying to fly by the seat of my pants in there. But it's I must say one of my favorite, if not the most favorite part of the job is the interviews. I'm happy to share some of that experience with you today.
So does everybody experience problem with audio, or is a few people?
We can hear you, Victoria, but Marko is coming a little bit.
I'll move it closer.
Yes, and just
better?
be brave and use your whole voice.
All right.
Yeah, better. Thanks.
So as a quick context, Rakettitiede is a software engineering consultancy. So we are software engineers. We create software. We are good at creating software, and that's what we focus on. And we are consultancy, so we sell work. The company is 13 years old, with various customers. But we are soon, I hope, breaking the 60 people headcount this year, and growing steadily profitably. Our company is pretty much a generalist company, so we don't have any specific technology or industry that we focus on. But roughly, we are working on embedded devices, IoT stuff, and then the typical, the most popular full stack, usually meaning cloud backend, some kind of web frontend, and then on mobile applications. So roughly, this is the breakdown. And our typical work is involved with as a member of a customer organization. So we really are knee deep in the code and creating the products and software services.
So so the subject of today is navigating through technical interview. So you've been searching for a job actively, filling in hundreds of application forms, and finally you got the call. You are invited for a tech interview. Yahoo! Happy times, right? But it's also very anxious and nerve-wracking because it's stressful, it's exciting, and it's stressful. So how to nail a job interview? And the answer is simple: just be better than the rest. So that's all you need to know. Thank you very much. So the mom's joke of the day. We are booked to speak for 40 minutes, so more slides to come. So today we would like to take you through the insights of what makes you a better candidate than the rest, right? And I would like to start with the qualities that would help you with that. So there is some like kind of base stuff like knowledge consistent with experience. And when I was working on the slide, me and my husband, we had a bit of chat over this particular statement, because he said like, it might come too scary or strong. And I was telling like, no, it's actually supposed to be more encouraging. What I mean here is if you have less experience, you're not expected to go maybe too much in depth of some technologies, but you still have to have a knowledge of wherever you're applying for. Effective communication, that's pretty straightforward, and you have to make sure and practice that you deliver your ideas in a clear way. You don't jump, back and forth. Solid contribution in past jobs. This is more relevant for those of you who are transitioning from one industry to another. Of course, when you're already transitioning from one job to other job in tech, it's obvious you will bring up your solid contributions. But if you're coming from outside world, don't be shy of bringing up what good and badass stuff you've done in the previous industries. It also counts. It shows that you actually care, you're a proactive person, and you have a good personality. That's what employers eventually want to see. Moving on to more like a bold, important features. I have camera right in front of me, so I'm going to be leaning a bit at times. I'm not drunk, it's just the camera in my way. Yeah. Oh, it's okay. I can read. So your interest in job and in industry. So you've probably already done some research, you've watched some YouTube videos, and you're gonna a lot of times hear the word passion. And I'm personally very skeptic about this term, because we're not all passionate, right? We're not all passionate what we're doing. And to be frankly, don't have to be passionate about tech, right? But you have to be interested. And so it is enough to show that you're interested, but don't go into this exaggerated emotions, because we also live in Finland. So remember, emotions, keep them under control. So interest is sufficient, right? So you don't have to go and say how, unless, of course, if you're passionate, then good for you, lucky you are, you're in the right place. But if you're just interested, it's okay. Don't go into, I'm crazy about, I don't know, new version of Node. Because eventually it will show in the interview process whether you are actually truly passionate or is, a job that you like doing. Last two, but not least, is a critical thinking. So it is important to show that you have knowledge, but many candidates have knowledge, right? You go, you read, you learn, and yes, it's important step. But what will make you look better if you can show that you can actually think, process, analyze, reflect it on your own personality, on your own experience. And we will go to these points during like follow-up slides with some examples showing how to demonstrate these qualities. And the last one is a quick learner ability. And I crossed out quick. The quick learner is, I think, what we all add in our cover letters because it sounds good, but there is no metric unit to measure the velocity of learning. So just you have to show that you are a learner, that you advance through your working life, but speed is not something that's critical, all right? So before an interview, there are kind of two directions I would like to cover in this area. So the most obviously straightforward but worth mentioning is I can say this word, familiarize yourself with the company, right? Read about it. I mean, you don't have to go in depth and start stalking every board member of the company, but you should know what the company does. And also before the interview, refresh yourself so you don't completely come as, as full ignorant person. Ask also about who will be interviewing you, actual people, and you can also go and check, their maybe background. So that will also help you to at least feel comfortable during the interview. Inquire in advance about the nature of interview, and this is what I mean. What I mean here is the technical section of it, whether it will be a technical discussion or like a grilling session where they're just gonna bombard you with a lot of very technical questions about a specific technology. It can be a home coding task, or it show project type of a thing, or my least favorite live coding session, right? And based on that, of course, prepare accordingly. Practice telling about yourself goes into the effective communication quality that you can show, concise. You will be asked questions probably on how did you start coding, why did you decide to follow this career path. So make sure you have a story and an honest one, right? So be honest will be probably something I'm going to repeat multiple times here. So something that, I mean, if you were looking for a job and you moved into tech, you can also talk about it. And be ready to discuss your prior experience in tech, right? So I'd like to develop a little bit more on this subject. If you it's okay. So, yeah, I'd like to go a bit more into be ready to discuss about your experience in tech, prior experience in tech. What I've seen so far, like again, what sets stronger candidates and not so strong is if you're already working now. So this is a time where you already should start preparing for the future interview by being involved in your work. Your current experience should count and it should show. Wherever you're working, like think of the following subjects. Can you talk about tech stack, why it was designed this way? What are the things that could be improved in your current project? What haven't been improved? Why it hasn't been improved? Why certain business decisions were made? Collaborations, what kind of experience in collaboration do you have? Did you like it? You didn't like it? What would you improve? Technical challenges, other type of challenges, how did you overcome? You can also ask about more like it's a practical stuff such as metrics, how infrastructure, deployment and maintenance. Often this part is the last point is often ignored by less experienced developers because they consider them a very scary part they don't even want to approach in a work. It's not as scary. Don't be shy. If you're less experienced, go and ask about this stuff. So if you're already working, ask around, talk to people. So when you go to the next interview and you're asked to talk about your previous experience on a certain project and somebody asks you why it was done this way, you can have two types of questions. One type, I don't really know, it was done this way before I joined the company. And the second answer could be, I don't really know, but I asked around, I talked to my senior, and he said that it is a real legacy project and we are married to it and we are afraid to fix it. So you can see in both cases there hasn't been really an answer, but in the second case, at least you show that you were interested. You thought about it. This is the part where you show that you are a thinker, right? You thought that, okay, why it's done this way? Let me go investigate. Let me ask around. So it's totally different personalities. One doesn't want to deal with problems and shows no ownership, and second one is actually is more proactive. So yeah, this is how you can show that you are not just studying, not just learning the coding part, but you can also think a bit ahead of what you're working. If you don't have prior experience at tech and you are just, a boot camp graduate or just out of college, you can think of the same questions for projects that you're working on, right? So you have to have working on some project that you will be showing why you decided to go with this particular stack, what kind of challenges you're facing. The challenge for me, I remember, was too much stuff to read, how to narrow down. So this is the before the interview.
Oh, yeah. Probably elaborating a bit on the what Victoria mentioned there about communication. So especially when applying for a consultant position. Communication skills, while they are important in any position, are maybe even more important as a consultant, because you are more expected to sell yourself again and again for the client, even while working there. That's why in the interview, even in the technical interview, communication skills and ability to express yourselves and listen to others is something that we do evaluate. And then the last word there, knowing who you are talking to. At Rakettitiede, we have just one technical interview. There are other steps in the interview process, but in technical interview, you are speaking with tech experts, and those are those who kind of need to communicate with. So that it's not a business manager or an HR manager or anyone like that. So if you can go over their head in technology, then congratulations, place is yours, almost. But so in the tech interview, we want to understand your capability and your skill levels. And I'm not sure how typical it is, but at Rakettitiede, we try to keep the interview quite. So that means going back and forth, exchanging information. And we don't have a quiz-like set of questions. We do have an idea of we want to discuss these topics, but we are not quizzing people. We are not expecting you to remember something. Well, some things you have to remember, some basics. But for example, if we ask about some technology, we're not expecting a school book answer, or just going through properties or going through methods or whatnot. We are interested in how you see it, how you understand the technology. Sometimes what we see is that people go on these long rants or long expositions that they just go through stuff you find on the manual, basically. Instead of divulging any kind of analysis or their own thoughts. It's kind of understandable. Our kind of interview might be a unique experience. You haven't been there before. So it is not working. All right. So it might be a new experience. But in any conversation, you need to have pauses. You need to listen to the other party, maybe rethink what has been asked, and not just jump to the first answer. So we have our interview is usually 1.5 hours, and it is very short time really to discuss anything. So you want to be efficient communicators. You want to answer the questions that we present, and sometimes it's good to think first and then answer. We are not timing the response time there. And yeah, so even if you start answering kind of a off target or whatnot, making it that discussion, asking us something, maybe if you're not quite getting what we were asking, ask clarifications. Sometimes we use funny words even when we don't realize it. And something I do recommend is, I'm a notorious note taker myself. I really like making notes in the moment, and I do recommend this also for interviews, because it helps you going through the interview afterwards, and an interview is always a two-way exchange of understanding and information. Whatever information we give you, we would appreciate it if you can find a use for it, if you remember it next week or next year. We can come to that next one. Yeah, and so we are not having a quiz, so we often drill down. So we discuss a technology. You mentioned something about something in there. We drill down into details, and most of the stuff in this industry people don't know. That's why the learning ability is so critical, what Victoria mentioned, that nobody knows more than a small fraction of what there is. So it's certainty that you will constantly encounter things where you don't know the answer. And in that sense, it's very important to be honest. I don't know. Or if you're unsure, how you handle the uncertainty might be brilliant or boorish, pretty much. And we really appreciate it far more that you kind of help us understand where your limits are, rather than trying to fake it. Yeah, mentioning that sometimes we are not the best people to ask the questions. We might use unfamiliar terminology. For example, I usually talk about Byzantine generals, whereas others might be talking about distributed consensus, which don't sound similar, but are the exact same thing. So we might be using old terms for new things. Some concrete.
Yeah, well, I'd also like to add one more thing about I don't know. So there is a very kind of thin line between, if you don't know, you should be honest about it. But before you jump into this conclusion, think for a second. Do you really don't know? Is it something that you can figure out? Is it, if you ask follow-up questions, maybe you can figure it out. So don't rush into panic mode. I don't know. Please don't ask me. Again, breathe in, breathe out. Try to figure it out. So don't give answers just to fill the silence, but try to analyze. Don't forget that you have a brain that actually works just great. So don't be scared to think out loud. So yeah, we're also thinking about maybe giving a couple of examples of okay and stronger answers for more technical questions, right? Like a hardcore examples ish. I will give an example about, for example, JavaScript versus TypeScript question. We roughly assume that most audience here is more front-end oriented, so hence the question. So if you are asking an interview, can you compare JavaScript versus TypeScript? Let's say a less experienced developer can have a note, sorry, I have to open it. A cheat sheet. So a TypeScript is more advanced, has a more advanced type safety. JavaScript offers only basic types. You can run JavaScript both. You can JavaScript both in browser and in Node. TypeScript has better readability. So it's kind of, you know, an answer from an article that you can just Google, and it is a good answer. It's good that you know that, you prepared, but most likely everybody will read the same article. What will make a better example if you can add now your personal experience and reflection into that. For example, you can elaborate from there saying, I really like JavaScript because it helped me stepping into the world of web development. It is a very easy language, and without this language, I maybe won't be able to have such a smooth experience. I've started it, I opened me the door, but I can see that with more complicated projects, it's quickly gets messy. But to be honest, what I've seen with TypeScript, things can also get messy. So language is not necessarily a bulletproof thing. It's also about the deadlines. It's about the experience. It's about other human factors. So here you have, again, you show that your knowledge, but at the same time, you reflected your personal experience. You could combine these two things and tell the story while answering the technical question. And would you like to talk about?
Yeah, might elaborate there that for example, if you discuss the TypeScript and JavaScript, and you mentioned that you like the type safety, then most likely we then divert the discussion about type systems and what other thoughts you have regarding types and kind of programming structures. Or if you mention functional programming features, then we might be discussing what other exposure to functional programming you have had and how you have used it before. So it's a kind of a launch pad to a lot of other discussion. Another kind of my favorite things to ask in an interview is asking of how you see and how you approach testing and quality assurance. Well, it's a profession in itself, right? It is heavily involved in software engineers' work. And there, once again, what you bring up to the table, what you think is important, then we start drilling down into that. And what have you done, what you would have liked to done, what thoughts you have, is some theory behind there. And that also spins easily to, say, requirements gathering, for example, that how, because oftentimes it's if a program is is easy to test, it's well designed.
Next slide. All right. So home task and coding during the interview. As mentioned earlier, you can have different types of technical challenges. My favorite is a home task that you can do peacefully, quietly at home. It's important when you're given the task and you deliver the solution that you matched the requirements in the task. All right. So whatever is said there, you have to do that. Code should be simple, clean, preferably tested and documented. It is nice to show that you have interest in other thing, and sometimes you might have an urge to throw extra thing on the top of that. But if you want to do it and you have time, again, always make sure that the basic is done, because if you're gonna skip the basic, jump to extra stuff, it just shows that you're ignoring the requirements, right? Also, don't be an overachiever. On the other side, people might not have time to just, if you build a whole microservice, nobody will have time to check the code. So it is okay to just match the basic requirement, but you can always read more, study more, and elaborate during the discussion when you will be presenting the task. Other thing to keep in mind with home task, coding, or whatever form of torture you have to go through, it's for you to demonstrate again the way you think, the way you approach the problem. It's not about how much function names you know, right? You'll forget them the moment you're done with the task anyway. So it's how can you think through, how can you justify the decisions you've made while doing this task. Regarding AI and our favorite tool these days, ChatGPT, I think it's like religions are different when it comes to this question. I think in our side, we generally don't mind if you use it because you're going to be using it at work anyway, let's be honest. But you have to know what you're doing. You have to know why you are using this particular solution. You have to be able to justify. And if code comes out messy, clean it up. Jarno is blocking me the slides. And yeah, again, live coding sessions again it's not to just to torture you and like make your blood pressure go up. It's the way to see how you can communicate. Don't be shy in asking follow-up questions, and it's all about to see how you can think. Next one. Yep. Other stuff. Be honest in your CV and cover letter, which used to be at the first slide. I moved it to the other stuff. Yes, again, going back to the ChatGPT AI generated stuff, which I think we've seen more recently doing the cover letter job more than actual humans. Again, there is nothing wrong with using it, especially most of us, I guess, here speak English as second language. But please don't make the whole thing generated by it. First of all, it shows there is a lot of text. Again, who will read it? And if you submit a cover letter that use super fancy words and you come and speak broken English, it's like, why? You're gonna still be speaking broken English at your work. So use it to polish some parts, but it has to be, your personality has to show in both CV and cover letter. So it's okay to be honest. Again, nobody really knows anything in this industry. Who is already working knows that. So about the asking questions during the interview, actually, when I was starting getting my first jobs and going through interviews, I always thought that you must ask questions, because if you don't ask questions, it shows that you're not interested. You don't have to ask questions. If the company intro was good enough, if they explain everything like basic stuff relevant to responsibilities, team that you will be working at already, you don't have to ask questions. Don't ask questions just for the sake of it. But what you can do during the interview, and that was a really nice tip from Marco, is ask maybe more personal questions, not like what's your wife's name, personal question, personal questions about your previous experience from interviewers, like tell me now about the most challenging thing you worked. So you can make it, especially if the nature of an interview is a technical discussion and it is more conversational, it is okay for you to ask from the interviewers and try to maybe go somewhere from there too. So again, this is something where you can show that you are interested. Asking for feedback and how to learn from it. After the interview, you can always reach out to the company and just ask for feedback, even if you got a no, how you can improve. I think company will be more than happy to give that feedback. So nothing wrong with that. Be yourself. Be confident. Yes, you were invited for this interview for a reason. So again, don't be too shy, don't be too modest. There is this fine line between being honest doesn't mean you have to undersell yourself. Okay. So again, remember you were invited for this interview because you're interested candidate. It means that you have something about you. So be sure, make sure that you can shine and show these features of your qualities of you that made you stand out. And yes, what companies are looking for, it can be up to negotiation. Coming right in front of me. Yeah. So don't be afraid to bring up other skills that are not relevant to tech, but you can still be applicable in your workspace.
Yeah. I think that last one is really important because we are looking for, everybody's looking for humans, not just a smarter ChatGPT here. So whatever is put in the job notice on the boards, it's always a subset of things that you want to find people that are, these are kind of their top skills. But it doesn't mean that you wouldn't have other top skills, but we just didn't think of putting that in the notification originally. And yeah, I'd like to touch briefly also on the ChatGPT and code. So it is becoming prevalent as part of the work. So don't be afraid of using Copilot, ChatGPT, whatever. But the important part is that when you use that, you are still responsible for the code. It's especially great for learning, but you are responsible for the code. You have to account for every line, every command the program does. So it doesn't excuse you in any way understanding how or why the software behaves. It can be a shortcut, but especially in professional work, it doesn't make it any less demanding, but maybe faster. All right, so the competencies at Rakettitiede that we are looking for, like mentioned, we are a generalist company, and oftentimes the profile is quite a generalist that we are looking for. And for the full stack position, there's always the UI layer, and this is most typically it's a web UI layer, and these days it's just about always some kind of a single page application, often React, Angular, Vue, and some others we are seeing them. Is it exactly some particular framework? Doesn't necessarily matter. They are somewhat similar to each other, but having worked on the kind of user experience level questions, even if purely in an engineer role, is really important. Then one area we look for is database understanding. So data storage is, well, very critical to any system, and how you manage data, how you keep it secure, how you if you have 1 million users and they all cause changes to the data, how you manage that, how you scale that, and data in the sense very critical. Understanding how you manage data, how you operate with databases, is that's something that you can't just patch. If you lose somebody's emails, they are gone. If you corrupt somebody's health records, you can't take it back. It's gone. It's then somebody's life might be threatened if you corrupt the data. Then of course cloud environments have become kind of a hygiene factor that even if not everything is in the cloud, most of stuff is, especially the new stuff, new software, new systems that are getting created. are usually put in the cloud. So the more experience, the more understanding you have of the cloud systems, the better. And if you don't have an experience, I would heartily recommend checking out, for example, different certificate programs. And if you want to do those certificates, they are work. They might not cost that much, like some are going for 50 euros. But even if not doing the certificates, they are very sensible packages of things, technologies, processes that you should look up and go through the introductions, tutorials, and whatnot, rather than just trying to figure out by yourselves, okay, what should I know about this? Check out what's in the certificates and learn that. And then for us, working with network systems, that's somewhat related to the clouds. But what we are seeing the systems are usually complex. So it's not just one server running everything. There might be multiple services. There might be failover mechanisms and whatnot. Single user action may have to travel through many different services. So this is if you are strong in other areas, you might be excused to kind of be more neglected here, because there's also a lot of software, a lot of services that's just as a single implementation, sitting in a single server, and that's just fine, and everybody's happy. They mentioned before testing and automation. Like I said, it is a profession in itself, but as an engineer, you have to be able to say and give a proof that my software works, that it doesn't corrupt the data, it doesn't take a week to complete a calculation or whatever, it doesn't suddenly break out and die when buying a plane ticket or something like that. So how you make sure that your software is, well, not flawless, but as little critical flaws as possible, and how to kind of maintain that, because often understanding how to test and verify your software also relates to how easy it is to maintain, how easy it is to hand over to somebody else in a year, and they can hand it over to somebody else after another year, and it's still maintainable. You can still make changes and improve it. Especially for a consultant who is expected to be here now and be gone tomorrow, and you have to leave behind work that other people can continue. And then, of course, we want to see that people have done some actual logic in the software. There's a lot of work that is just connecting systems together. Data flows one place to another. There might be some simple transformation, like looking up a name for a social security number or something like that. But that is pretty straightforward, just data flowing from one place to another. We want to see also some kind of a logic being done, some decisions, some transactions, something that needs an algorithm, even a simple one. And I'd recommend that if you find yourself in a situation where you are just connecting stuff together with simple save and retrieve operations, don't stay there too long, because that's one area where I would expect AI tools to start taking over most of the work in the coming years. So it's a good learning experience, but don't stay there. Yeah. And the final slide for now, I guess. And yeah, it's going through the previous one, it might sound that you have to know the whole internet to
Give me anxiety now. It's like I gotta get more tests. Bye guys. I'm going checking the databases that we have.
Yeah, and well, that's kind of the big reason, that separating the ideal and the reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the idea, guys. That's not reality.
Yes. And but in larger organizations, it's easier to find very good IT jobs that specialize in a very narrow sector of software engineering. But at Rakettitiede, we are looking for people who are comfortable in many different areas, be it front end, back end databases. We're not expecting people to be deep expert in everything or even anything of those, but to be flexible, be able to be interested in taking in learning what you need to do, and having kind of a basic level of knowledge on many different things. And even then, like on the slide there, it's always good to have some personal strong areas, some go-to technologies that, okay, this is something where I'm truly the expert, because then you stand out. If you're just okay with 50 different areas, it's hard to outcompete others, be it for a job or be it for an assignment. So have flexibility, have variability, but also try to find those areas in technology or in an industry, in a domain that really calls to you, and put an effort in getting experience on that, or understanding it, reading up what happens overall with the technologies and services around that. So it's not just what you have to learn, but be active on that. Make your own kind of a spearhead of your knowledge. And yeah, I'd like to touch what you mentioned on the feedback, because that kind of ties into a long-term view of things. Now, I'm afraid that Rakettitiede is going beyond what most companies do on feedback, because we are holding each other kind of accountable, that we always want to give feedback, and we feel it's especially important if we reject a candidate, because in I'd say 95% of the cases, it's not that we wouldn't want to work with that person, it's just that this is not the right time, or there might be something missing. And it's naturally in our interest that we want to help this person evolve professionally to a state where we would be happy to welcome them to be part of our team. And in that sense, I think it's quite rude not to give feedback. But on the other hand, I kind of understand if people are just running out of time. If you want to give good feedback, it actually takes time. And that's why for us, the technical interview, the topic of this webinar, is kind of the watershed. When we invite a person to a technical interview, we are asking them to invest quite a lot of time to us, and we are investing quite a lot of time for them. So then not give feedback, just keep that final 1 hour, seems just wasteful, seems just wrong. So, but many places, what I understand, are that if you ask for feedback, then you get feedback, and it's very valuable. And what I'm hearing from Tessie, who is running the recruitment at Rakettitiede that is also often valued by the candidates. So if you don't get it outright, ask for it. And like us, for many others, if it's not now, when? That's the big question that everybody should be answering. If not now, when? And that's why it's important to meet companies, meet Rakettitiede, other companies like Rakettitiede. If you get an invite to a technical meeting, go there. You will learn something. You will get feedback. You will make connections. And the connections are a big thing, especially, I think, in the Finnish job market. Many interesting positions go through networks, quite a lot. So get to know people, even years before you even want to change a job or have a new job. And because who knows, it could be that the connection you make this today, 2 years back, you are hiring them. All right. Questions?
Okay, so now's the time to ask some questions. You can write those down in the chat or just raise your hand and be brave. But while we are waiting those, I have a couple of things to say. First of all, thank you. I have to say that this, even though this was a technical interview presentation instruction kind of, you gave a lot of good insight how to present yourself in any interview. So thank you. I also did learn a lot. And I think that we need to write an article about these instructions because there were lots of really encouraging things. I do appreciate that you said that it's also important to talk about your other skills, your work-life skills. And also thank you for encouraging us to use broken English too, because we Finns do struggle sometimes to trust ourselves with this. So ralli englanti is real English too. But I have two questions. And these questions are something that I get quite often, but I don't know how to answer. So is it okay to send invite in LinkedIn to recruiters? Is it okay to like be friend like this?
Our recruiter approves.
I might want to elaborate this. Recruiters, it's often part of their profession that they collect a lot of connections, a lot of links. So
yeah,
it is, if it's a recruiter, then definitely it is in their professional interest to accept your invite. Then, for example, for me, I'm not strictly in a recruiter position, even if I'm involved in recruitment. So I usually prefer to connect only with people I have met or done business with. But so in that sense, don't expect everybody at the company to behave the same way, but anybody in a recruiter position welcomes your connection request.
That's good. That's really good to hear. And also, you mentioned that applicant needs to have some kind of project experience if there is not that much real life work project experience. And we are talking about in Mimmit Koodaa community, we have a lot of juniors. So what kind of project they should have? What kind of, should be something huge, should be like finished game, or is there something more about behind the logic or use technology, or like you, I think you said something about how to communicate and talk about that project. Does it need to be perfect and huge, or what kind of thing?
Well, I can definitely say shouldn't be perfect. I can answer you right away. What kind of projects do you have good ideas?
I think, first of all, if you have some personal project that you have been working on, that's always by far the best. because with personal project, you are usually the only contributor. So it's easy to say, okay, what is by you?
Yeah.
We do have kind of a test assignment that we give out for people who don't have a personal project to present, but and many companies use those. But the problem with those are that it's not reasonable to spend a lot of time with those. So they are usually very small, very narrow. There might be just completely irrelevant stuff, just doing whatever. And that's a hobby project, personal project that you actually use for something.
Yeah.
Is probably by far the best, because then you use it for something. There's an actual use case. There's an actual need. It's actually running somewhere. And perfect, definitely not, because personal projects are usually for exploration. You might be doing it the third time over because you think this is supposed to be a nicer way to do it. And of course, it's forgiving. If you have a permission to show work code and we spot a security flaw there, that's a lot more damning than a personal project having some flaws in there. But also the kind of the personal projects can be larger. And of course, we don't have time to go through everything. But the larger it is, the more there is to discuss, and the more likely it has kind of interesting, challenging points you want to bring out and discuss with us.
Yeah.
So we are not measuring the size, but oftentimes if it's a larger project, there's more to discuss.
Yeah.
I'd like to also add, sorry, in a context of a junior and a less experienced. So we don't really interview such a level of candidates, so it's a bit hard to kind of put ourselves in those shoes. And for all of us, well, who are in this room, a known number of people, you can do it only once. And I think I have the most recent experience in that sense. But I would say it is important to have some activity on GitHub. That's first.
Yeah.
I do talk also with some ladies that are interested in going to the tech, but then when I ask them what do you have on GitHub, there is like crickets, noise, there is like nothing. So there must be activity on GitHub, but then the complexity of the project, as sometimes I've seen there would be some basic HTML page and they already want to search for a job. That's not enough. If you completely lost, go on Udemy, take a web development course, and there you will usually end up with a good scale project, which is not too big, not too little, and that will be your baseline, how you can judge your other pet projects. So use an existing course to kind of get started, to understand what has to be there. And from there on, you can go in different direction, add more to this project, make another one with different tag, but there must be something definitely.
Yeah.
And I'd like to kind of out of time. Is it okay?
Yeah, it's okay. We can.
Okay, yeah, okay. We can
People
talk
can
about
leave
this
if
for
they want.
hours.
We can have a little discussion around this.
Yes.
Please.
Yeah.
So, do you have any idea how smartly mark experience of coding languages in CV?
Yeah.
How to mark?
Smartly experience of
I think that means that how to express your experience of use of certain coding language. Do you need to measure it on years or courses or use projects or like that? Though, if you can.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think in CVs you usually have a kind of two kind of presentations of three times. There's a kind of a skill summary, which mainly gives a kind of a relative ranking of your core skills. And if you put something kind of on the top, then it's probably something that you're very confident, you have professional experience, professional level. You don't have to be the best in the trade or kind of giving courses on it, but it kind of this is your strong points. So the skill listing is the relative one. Then you usually have a project or work history listing that then gives more context. Okay, where have you used this skill? What have you done with it? And then if it's something special that you want to bring up, then you might add some text in the cover letter on specialties. But mainly on the skill listing, you give a relative ranking. If the top is, I'd say, is professional level. And the bottom level you should mention is that, okay, I have tried this out. So I kind of I'm aware of the basics. And then just whatever scale you use, we are using 1 to 5, just use that linearly. But importantly, we would like to see in the project or work history listing some kind of evidence where I have used these skills. What have I done with them?
Yeah, that's good. That's excellent. I really do love your answers. They are so like inhimillisia, like it really gives us strength and I really do like the way you two speak. So thank you. We don't have any other questions at the moment, but oh yeah, we do have just one here. Should you tell to the interviewers if you have ADHD or autism or other special qualities that make you verbally or socially atypical, but you still are expert in tech? If you really can't shine in interview situations, and do employers hire to fired and weird ones?
I think employers hired weird ones if you can show the knowledge at the end of the day. If you again knowledge, thinker, learner, in that sense about ADHD and some I don't know.
This is probably something that for definitive answer I would like to first discuss with Desi, our recruiter, about this. But I'd say that if you feel that it might impact kind of what impression you give, you may want to bring it up. It is private information, so the interviewers are in no way, they don't have a right to know. But if you choose to bring it up, it might be beneficial. And several people have brought those up, and I have felt that it has helped me to kind of orient myself in the interview. And I'd say for tech companies, as far as I know, they are not that sensitive because it's oftentimes it matters how you work and how good you work, what your capability is. But then sometimes it can reflect the role.
Yes.
If you are in a sales position, then being very introverted might be well, that's not neurotypical condition, but some of them may reflect. If you're on the autistic spectrum, sales position might not be the best one. And I think with consultancy, well, what we at Rakettitiede feel might be different from what clients feel. And I think our approach would be that if we can kind of orient ourselves in the interview and it doesn't matter, then we would like to also offer that person to a client. But then again, the clients don't necessarily stand up to the same criteria as consulting houses, or if they are choosing their own employees. They can pick up on whatever cue that they feel that why some candidate, why choose one candidate above another. So it may affect, but then again, if you bring it up in the interview and it's manageable, might even get into a discussion of how to handle that in the client interviews. That might not be as friendly as a consultant house interview. So really hard to say what you you should do. This, in some cases, it might be something you might want to discuss with the recruiter, for example, because they will know who the interviewers are, and they are obliged to kind of control confidential information in any case.
Yeah,
But
I have,
I
sorry,
don't know.
please continue.
It's a difficult one.
Yeah, I
Well-
think overall, if you have any of those
Neurodivergent.
neurodivergent conditions, as long as, of course, it doesn't affect your work much, and you can explain, even though you have it, how you manage and cope, I think it's even maybe going to show you as a stronger, give you a bit of a bonus, because you are definitely a challenge overcomer here.
Mhm.
So it shouldn't sound as an excuse for doing less, because people at the start might be understand. I was actually reading a few days ago an article about a lady who quit tech because she has ADHD, and she was pissed that people didn't understand her. But the reality is, people will understand you at the start, but then in the long run, they will run out of it. So as long as it doesn't affect your work life, and you can still manage with it and find your place in the workplace, I don't see it's a problem.
Yeah. And I think in the big picture, neurodivergence isn't, no, this is my personal opinion, it isn't a handicap, it's just being different. And people sadly have problems working with people, with others who are different from themselves. But this is something that as a society, we are slowly overcoming. For many Finns, sadly, there's still a problem working with people who don't speak Finnish, for example. That's another kind of working with somebody who's different from yourself. And as we get more understanding, everybody of us has better skills of working with people who are different from us, this becomes less and less of an issue. And like you mentioned, it might even be an advantage, because person with neurodivergence has actually probably had more thinking done about how to work with different kind of people than kind of a normal normal white Finnish male engineer. So that they might actually be more skilled in working in a diverse environment.
Mimmit Koodaa program has been working with so many companies, and this is a question that we often get. And as an industry, we are a little bit different. We do welcome a lot different kind of people, and we do have a fair amount socially awkward tech people in here. So we have a lot different kind of people here, and during this time of diversity and inclusion, there's a lots of companies that do welcome a different kind of people. And as you said, it's not the handicap, we are just a different kind of people, and we do also work on different ways, and that is also quite accepted on this industry. But of course, we all need to have a basic communication skills between the team members and stuff like that. So, but I don't think that is not the problem. And my advice is that you don't need to say about these things, but if you need to say about these things, it's okay to say. But as you two said also, if you have solutions and if you know how you work, you can just like openly talk about those, and usually it's okay. So, sorry, my doorbell is ringing. So this is a really good time to end our session here. We do thank you a lot, and we do also thank our participants. And let's get back together later, and I will send the recording to everyone. And let's talk about the article about this topic too. Have a lovely weekend, and let's hope that winter goes away and we will have a lots of shiny and warm days on weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.